In free agency, the best prospect in the player pool, Jahmir Ware, chose to re-sign in Utah for 3 years, $105 million. With the remaining players, PG-13 and Kai James headline the free agent class. Paul George decides to stay in Milwaukee with Giannis, but the Brooklyn Nets see a player they like. The Nets signed Kai James to a $116 million deal for 3 years. Kai James did play great in Chicago and is extremely young at only 19 years old, but almost the entire NBA world agrees this was an overpay. With the extra money since they didn't sign Kai James, the Bulls re-signed sophomore St. Montgomery and signed OG Anunoby from the Warriors. Aging superstars James Harden and Kevin Durant re-signed with their former teams. KD for 1 year, while Harden re-signs for 2 more seasons with the Utah Jazz. On Christmas Day, Charlotte makes a statement win over Milwaukee, and there were some rumors that maybe Kadon would leave Charlotte soon, but after re-signing and the Hornets still being a contender, it seems like he'll stick around. Players around the league have been improving fast. Kadon Ryan averaging 28.4 points per game in the first half of the year, John Cookley averaging 25.4 points per game and 9 rebounds a game for a struggling Spurs unit, and Zion Williamson is gunning for MVP with 30 points per game and 10.4 rebounds per game so far. The young star William Wilson is having his best career year, averaging 19 points and 7 rebounds a game, while Kai James is way less productive in Brooklyn, stats-wise at least, than in Chicago. Something to be expected since on the Bulls Kai James was the #1 option, but just something to take note of. The Pacers have acquired new pieces throughout the season, such as Josh Hart and former Pacer Malcolm Brogdon, to bolster up their roster and attempt to make a deep playoff push. Both teams are similar, deep young teams, but many trust Indiana more than Brooklyn in the postseason, after the Pacers nearly beat the 2-seeded Celtics in the first round last year. The Heat had many injuries to Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler early on, leading to Miami starting with a abysmal 6-17 record, but now they have rebounded with a 43-30 record and being the 4th seed in the East. And by trading their first round pick for DeAndre Hunter, they seem to be trying to improve and bring in some more young talent. While the team the Heat faced in the conference semifinals, the Hornets, are now the 1st seed in the East and the first team in the conference with a locked-in play-in spot. Led by Kadon Ryan's explosive offensive output on the scoring end, averaging a career-high 28.1 points a game. The Nuggets and Pelicans are seen as the favorites to win the title, with pretty young rosters and 2 of the deepest teams in the league. Both units made moves to improve their already great teams, with D'Lo and Jeremy Grant going to New Orleans, while the Nuggets get Tobias Harris, Draymond Green, Jordan Clarkson, and Malik Monk. The All-Star game included multiple 2025 draftees, John Cookley, the 4th-year star for the Spurs. Izzy and Kadon Ryan both made the All-Star game, Izzy averaging a great 21, 10, and 7 stat line for New Orleans, while Jahmir and Victor are both starting for Team Giannis. Many great plays and flashy dunks later, the Grizzlies duo dominated the game and Kyrie won it all for Team Giannis on the game-winning 3. And LaMelo Ball will walk away with the All-Star MVP after scoring 18 points and getting 16 assists. In the second half of the year, the Suns were on fire, winning 10 games straight at one point with their new acquisitions of Vucevic to fit their center needs after not being able to get Jazz star Jahmir Ware. And the Suns even got Fred VanVleet from Miami, who played very well last year in the playoffs. The biggest disappointments of the season was Boston and Milwaukee, both only having a 25-48 record in 73 games, but Philadelphia tops both of them by being 22-50 while being the last seed in the East and having the 4th worst record in the NBA. And LaMelo ends up winning MVP after a 26, 9.5, and 7 season. It was a tight race with Zion and Jahmir, but in the end, Zion played only 63 games while LaMelo played 75, seemed to be the tiebreaker. Anthony Davis wins DPOY after being the driving force for the Lakers, having the best defense in the league. Jahmir Ware gets his first taste of All-NBA first team, while Izzy and Victor once again make an All-NBA team. And Kadon Ryan for the first time in his career makes an All-NBA team after his great 28 point per game season on the 1st seeded Hornets. And Christian Green Jr., the 3rd-year star for the Knicks, made the All-NBA 3rd team after a great 25 point and 7 rebound per game season. But CGJ might end up looking elsewhere in free agency, maybe fed up with the oddly built roster with Jalen Brunson, De'Aaron Fox, Julius Randle, and himself. Lakers duo Paul Thompson and Anthony Davis headline the defensive first team, while the Jazz duo both make the second team. In the playoffs, the sophomore 21-year-old undrafted guard for the Bulls, St. Montgomery, has been showing his ability to score for his mediocre Bulls team. Even with the subtraction of last year's Rookie of the Year, Kai James, the Bulls have found a way to improve from a 29-win team last year to a 44-win team this year. The high-flying former Hornet, Dylan Mitchell, has been great for Chicago, averaging 18 points off the bench at only 23 years old. This Bulls team may have a great future, especially if the front office can pick up more pieces or a star player, but the Hornets expectedly won the series versus the 8-seeded Bulls. Chicago did put up a fight, going out in 6 games, but Kadon and LaMelo took care of business to advance to the second round. During the series, Kadon Ryan was actually fighting through a strained right MCL he suffered in Game 4, posing an injury concern he had coming out of Michigan State. The injury worsening the Hornets only adds to what many have been left thinking, that this Eastern Conference is extremely weak, with Philly, Boston, and Milwaukee all having awful seasons, and even Miami not being at the same level as last year, making analysts and fans expect this finals appearance to come easy for whoever comes out the East. After the Suns take a 2-1 series lead over the 2-seed Pelicans, with the dominant Game 3 victory, beating New Orleans 145-105 in Phoenix, the Pelicans snap out of their trance and end up beating the Suns in 6, with Zion and Izzy being the dominant forces, while D'Angelo Russell was the X factor to turn the series around with his 26-point game in Game 5. And with the Lakers and Rockets, Houston was sure close to upsetting LA. But Paul Thompson and Anthony Davis kept up their defensive masterpieces and defeat the young Rockets team in 6. Even though this team is young, they have been to the playoffs for years now, but Houston loses every single year in the first round. The number 1 seeded Memphis Grizzlies breeze by Minnesota, and it might just be time for Anthony Edwards to take his talents elsewhere. Minnesota has not put any talent around Cat or Anthony Edwards since they made the finals in 2024. Giving away valuable players like D'Lo and Bronny about being swept in the first round seems like writing on the wall. It's really unlucky that Denver had to play Utah in the first round. Last year, the Nuggets had to play the Grizzlies in the first round, who went on to win the championship. These two teams are as close to equal as you can get, with Denver probably having the better team, and the seeding coinciding with that. Tied up at 3 games apiece, Nugget star Cam Johnson got hurt with a sore knee in the win-or-go-home match. The Jazz and Nuggets were pretty even throughout the game still, but when Nikola Jokic fouled out late in the fourth quarter, the Jazz were ready to take advantage. The Nuggets put former all-defensive second-team player Cam Johnson on wear. Cam tried his hardest to stop the young superstar, but with Cam visibly hurt, the Nuggets were lacking the driving force to win the game. Even with all the talk that Miami has fallen off from their super team status, Miami shocks the league by stomping the Pacers in a sweep. After Indiana improved their roster and went from the 7 seed to the 5 seed, many expected for them to do what they did last year, giving their opponent a difficult fight. But Miami regains their playoff hype and looks to match up against the Hornets for the 3rd straight year. After the Pistons finally make the playoffs for the first time in the Sim, the Knicks end up bouncing them out in a close 6 games, led by De'Aaron Fox 25 points a game and Christian Green Jr.'s 24 points a game. With the Wembanyama headlining the free agency class next year, Piston fans are definitely holding their breath, hoping the front office empties out their pockets and don't make a mistake by letting him go. The Brooklyn Nets go to war in a 7-game series versus the 6-seeded Orlando Magic. Shai Gilgeous was simply not showing up as the main star, forcing former first overall pick Xavier Booker and former 3rd pick William Wilson to step up, both averaging 19 points a game on over 50% field goal shooting, putting Brooklyn over the edge in Game 7 to advance to the next round. The Magic's young stretch 5, Martin Novak, is on the last year of his deal, and is yet to be seen if the Magic are really stressing on re-signing him, or if they're going to let other teams take a shot at the raw big man. In the second round, we once again see Grizzlies versus Jazz.
After a Ja Morant hardwood classic in Game 5 where he dropped 53 points, Memphis was up 3-2. The Jazz end up tying the series though to force a Game 7 in Memphis, and the 62-win Grizzlies have a chance to take the lead down 114-113. And after Kyrie hits a mid-range shot, the Jazz turn the ball over and Kyrie makes it a 117-114 game. And with no time left to tie the game, the sophomore Trey Johnson misses the three for Utah, and the reigning champs will move on to the conference finals. The battle for New York. Christian Green Jr. showed his scoring dominance with averages of 30.2 points a night versus Brooklyn, but with Brunson and Randall disappearing in the final 4 games of the series, the big three of Wilson, Shea, and Booker showed out to a 5-game series win. This Knicks team being an example of how you can't win in the playoffs with just one star player showing up. The 3rd year straight of Hornets versus Miami in the playoffs. Kevin Durant scored 43 points in Game 3, so of course the Heat won. Well, obviously they would've if Kadon Ryan was not him. Kadon scored 46 points in the same game against Kevin Durant and led the Hornets to take a 2-1 lead. Maybe if Kadon Ryan didn't dominate when KD caught fire, the series would have been completely different. But with Charlotte having the momentum, home court advantage, and a on-fire Kadon, the Hornets absorbed the Heat's best blow in a very tightly competitive 5-game series. The Lakers and Pelicans face off. Izzy had a dominant first round, but with lockdown defender Paul Thompson guarding him, Izzy averaged almost 5.5 turnovers a game in the series versus the Lakers. This Lakers team has been a shutdown unit defensively, leading to LA having a 3-2 series lead. In Game 6, Rudy Gobert was out with injury, Kevon Looney will be in with Anthony Davis, and even without Gobert, Zion and the rest of New Orleans continued to struggle. And the Lakers are advancing to play Memphis in the Western Conference Finals after beating the Pelicans in a scrappy series. With the Hornets having way more experience than the Nets, Charlotte's 2-1 lead after 3 games came to no surprise. But when it was clear Kadon continued the battle through injuries, many wondered what would happen. Kadon would end up missing Game 4, where Brooklyn tied the series 2-2, and Kadon would rush back for Game 5, struggling mightily. But with teammates like LaMelo and Will O'Neal stepping up, Charlotte walks away with a Game 5 dub even with Kadon hurt. But Brooklyn shot on a historic efficiency in Game 6, scoring 153 points and winning by 36. In a hard-fought 7-game series, the Hornets escape with their lives in the win-or-go-home match. Many fans questioning if this Charlotte team is legit, even though they just made the NBA Finals, while Brooklyn looks like a real contender for years to come. With the Memphis duo both going through injuries, a Morant shoulder and a Kyrie ankle, the already great Lakers defense played even better. The Lakers winning in 7 games, and Morant tried his hardest to will his team to a victory, but without his running mate Kyrie at anywhere near full strength, the Grizzlies couldn't get the job done. For the NBA Finals, it is Game 6. Many had the Lakers in this series, due to the Hornets still not being at 100%. Kadon was dominating for Charlotte in the first round, but after getting hurt, many didn't believe in the Hornets anymore. The Hornets still found a way to go up 3-2, even with Kadon at 70%. Will O'Neal averaging 21 points, 11.5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks a game was the X factor for Charlotte. In Game 6, the Hornets were able to hang on to beat the Lakers in LA. The media had made Paul Thompson and Kadon rivals, but tonight, Kadon quieted all the noise with a game-high 35 points with 6 threes, while Thompson had himself a solid 30 points, but of course, the tiebreaker being Paul missing the clutch shot and Kadon winning his first NBA championship. In the offseason, Westbrook retires and gets his jersey retired by Oklahoma City. The Pistons quickly re-signed Victor Wembanyama, and most superstars did end up re-signing to their former teams, including St. Montgomery signing a 3-year $88 million contract with the Bulls. After being a 44-win team in the 7th seed in the East last year, the Pistons pick up extra pieces for Victor. Detroit re-signed Cade Cunningham, traded Jaden Ivey for Paul George, picked up Christian Wood in free agency, and last year they already traded for Zach LaVine. Many trades happened around the league, Phoenix once again making a move, trading a young player for Miles Bridges on the last year of his deal. The Kings cleared up some cap space by trading Desmond Bane, while the Wolves finally add some talent around Cat and Ant Edwards. The Pelicans trade away D'Lo after a bad shooting start, shooting 36% from the field on the season. They get Rudy Gobert to bulk up their defense while hurting the Lakers' biggest strength. But in a sick twist of fate, Izzy gets a major injury right after the trade, being a torn right tricep, and he's going to be out for around 5 weeks. With Izzy being hurt, he does not make the All-Star game, while young up-and-comers take his place. Trenton Flowers having another great season as the #1 option in Atlanta, while Xavier Booker and Christian Green representing New York. Cam Johnson for Denver has been a man amongst boys, instead of just being called a Draymond Green style player like he was early on in his career. He's now turned into a Ben Wallace Draymond Green hybrid with the ability to stretch the floor out. For the NBA awards, Jahmir Ware wins MVP in just his 5th season after being in the MVP conversation for years. DeAndre Hunter wins 6th Man of the Year for the Young Bulls unit. Cam Johnson continues his overall dominance to win Defensive Player of the Year. And St. Montgomery comes into his own this year to win Most Improved with over 25 points a game. Even with all the injuries, Izzy still makes All-NBA First Team. Luka has a dominant season for the first time in years. Trenton Flowers continues his great offensive play with Atlanta to a 2nd team spot. And Bronny James makes a big leap, making the 3rd team with averages of 21 points and 8 assists a game. Xavier Booker showing why he was the 1st overall pick, making All-NBA 3rd team and an All-Defensive team. And Will O'Neal has his best year with stats of 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks a game. Nobody in the Eastern Conference had a great regular season, no team winning over 53 games for the first time since 2023. The Bucks continue to struggle, Giannis constantly being in trade talks nowadays. The Lakers had another fantastic regular season in the West, even while giving up Gobert. The Pelicans do worse than usual due to the injuries to Izzy, but still end up being the 5 seed in the West, having to play a very competitive Grizzlies team in the first round. Even with Izzy coming back very recently, he has not lost a beat. In fact, Izzy has been carrying this New Orleans team against Memphis. This Memphis team has lost a step this year, possibly the egos of John Morant and Kyrie can only coincide for one championship. But with the New Orleans cast struggling and Gobert getting injured, the series went to 7. Izzy continues his dominance with 36 points and 13 assists in Game 7, leading New Orleans to advance to the 2nd round, and Izzy having his best series by far in his young career. After the 8-seeded Warriors take a shocking 2-1 lead, the Paul Thompson and AD Lakers go on to win 3 straight to beat the Warriors in 6. And with Curry being 40 years old, this may be the last time seeing the greatest shooter on the court. The 2-seeded Nets take on the once great Miami Heat. This matchup was looking like the old legends versus the new rising stars, and throughout the series, the Heat were never able to keep up with this Nets team. Shea and the rest of the group advanced past Miami in 6 games. Charlotte with back-to-back years with the #1 seed in the NBA. The Bulls have created a nice foundation on defense from Vanderbilt and Anunoby, while offensively, Saint, Taylor, and DeAndre Hunter can bring the scoring. And just like last year, the Hornets moved past Chicago in 6. This time, Kadon stays healthy and lets the others like Gordon and O'Neal step up rather than averaging 30+ points a game. In the 2 seed versus the 7 seed match, the Jazz without Harden will have to play Luka Doncic in the first round. Harden is out for the series with a knee injury, and Ware and company will have to take control. Luka has been a one-man wrecking crew for Dallas, with former 2025 12th overall pick Trey Johnson averaging 21 points a game for the series in relief of Harden, and Jahmir Ware stepping up. The Jazz win the series in a tight 6 games. After trading 2 first-rounders for Sabonis, this Cavs team has gotten back into the playoff race. The Cavs used to be a young team, but now with them aging, the Pistons seem to take their place. Detroit in this series was simply bigger in almost every matchup. Sabonis can't guard Victor, Garland has no shot with Cade Cunningham, and even Donovan Mitchell on Nasir Cunningham is a big height advantage. The Pistons and Cavs are very close in talent, but Detroit ends up coming up on top in 7 games. The Nuggets, unlike the previous years, play a pretty easy opponent in the first round. Some fans are getting restless about the former #1 pick, OJ Tremblay, saying he hasn't taken that next step. And really, this Rockets team as a whole has just never taken the step forward, once again getting bounced in the first round in 6 games. Last year, this series was opposite in seeding, New York being the 3 seed. The Knicks had made a solid trade for Klay Thompson from Golden State, but even with that being said, the Magic dominated New York in a surprising outcome. Tristan Green Jr. and the rest of the Knicks were never in sync, and the Magic take a massive leap by sweeping the Knicks, and Orlando finally makes the second round of the playoffs. In the second round, Zion and Izzy were unstoppable, even against a top 5 defense. Izzy drops 49 points in Game 2 to take a 2-0 lead against the first-seeded Lakers. Paul Thompson only shot 37% from the field during the series, and Anthony Davis only averaged 23 points. The addition of Gobert on defense intimidated everybody on the opposing side. The 5-seed Pelicans beat the Lakers in an easy 5-game gentleman's sweep. The Nuggets and Jazz rematch last year's first round. With Harden returning from injury in Game 4, the Nuggets had a 3-2 series lead. With the Jazz being able to force a Game 7, Jameer had 42 points late in the fourth quarter, leading the Jazz to a slight 124-121 lead with about 20 seconds left. The Nuggets sharpshooter Christian Kelly gets free and drains the 3 to tie up the game. Harden gets the ball for the last shot and he misses an easy look, continuing his struggles, shooting 4 for 17 from the field going into overtime. In overtime, Jameer kept up his great play, but Jokic started to heat up on offense. With Utah up by 2, Jamal Murray hits Harden with a crossover and drains the 3 to take the lead. The Jazz end up drawing a play, and with 7 seconds left, the Jazz have a 2-point lead right back. With no time left, Murray runs up the court, gives it to Jokic, and he drains the shot right over Harden at the buzzer to go to double overtime. In double OT, Jameer Ware gets to the 50-point mark, but with the rest of the Jazz, and especially Harden, not showing up as much as the others for Denver, the Nuggets win the extremely close Game 7 to advance to the third round. The Magic and Nets also battle it out to a 7-game series. The Magic have been using their quick-paced offense to throw off this Nets team. And going into Brooklyn, the Magic looked good, winning Game 6 and having the momentum on their side. But the Nets absolutely tear apart the Magic in Game 7, the Nets' biggest lead being up to 51 points in the closeout game. The Pistons and Hornets match up. This became the third series in the semifinals to go to a Game 7. The Pistons team has been one of the best units at attacking the rim, and possibly being the most athletic and physically gifted in the league. Will O'Neal was getting stretched around, having to respect Wembanyama from 3, and having to protect the rim. But with how much pressure the young superstar Kadon Ryan puts on defenses, the Pistons were having to fight for their lives. With under 15 seconds left, the Hornets were up by 2 in Game 7, and Cade Cunningham tries to feed it down low to Victor, but the pass ends up getting stolen. The Hornets advance to the Eastern Conference Finals once again, but the Pistons and Wembanyama have proven that they are a serious contender for the future. In the Western Conference Finals, the Pelicans were struggling to keep up with their energy from the second round, and especially the first round. Izzy seems to be gassed, and he was dominant for sure in the first 14 games, but ever since he seemed to be not on the same level. Also, with DeJounte Murray dealing with a broken finger on his dominant hand, the Pelicans had no chance, the Nuggets advancing to their long-awaited finals appearance in a 6-game series. The Nets and Hornets face off. Both teams went to 6 games in round 1 and 7 games in round 2. Now in the conference finals, Charlotte and Brooklyn go to 7 games. Going into Game 7, the Hornets had a fully healthy Kadon, while Shea had a couple minor injuries going on with his hip. Both teams were taking some good punches. Unlike Izzy, Kadon has preserved his energy throughout this playoff run. Kadon was giving it his all tonight, catching some lobs and even getting some putbacks. And with Kadon leading the way for the reigning champs with the 24-point triple-double, the game was tied at 124. Brooklyn has the ball and Kevin Huerter drains the 3 to take the lead with just 2 seconds left. Hornets have the ball and LaMelo once again fails to connect on a clutch shot in the playoffs. The Nets advancing to the NBA Finals for the first time since the Jason Kidd days in 03. Cam Johnson's bad luck continues with him fouling out in the most important game of his career, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. With Jokic being such a dominant force, Kai James would have to show up big time, and he did just that, stepping up immediately with 17 points in just the first quarter, and 32 points going into the fourth. With Cam out, Nikola Jokic started to dominate the entire Nets team. But this Brooklyn playoff run has been all about one thing, a total team effort. Everyone playing well, having the game be close at 125 to 123, Nets winning, with little over a minute to go. Shea hits a nice mid-range jumper to increase their lead, but with the game nearly over, Shea fouls Jamal Murray on a three-point shot, where Murray hits all 3 free throws to cut the lead to 3. After the Nets increase their lead to a 2-possession game, Nikola Jokic ends up getting the ball and drains the hook right over Kai James. And Kai James makes a costly mistake, barely not throwing the ball in on time, and the Nuggets only needed a 3 to take the lead in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And Jokic with a good look at the mid-range shot to tie, and he misses the shot, and Brooklyn win the finals on the road in Game 7. The underdogs do the unthinkable and win the championship against a stacked Denver team. Kai James walks away with Finals MVP with averages of 22 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 39 minutes a game versus Denver. While Kai James ended up scoring a monster 36 points and 12 rebounds in Game 7. Kai James now becomes the second youngest player, only behind Magic Johnson, to win the Finals MVP. In free agency, many teams were quick to get their young star players back on the team, but for one team, it was not like that. The Hornets and Kadon did not agree to a contract, and Kadon will test his value in free agency. We've already seen in this video that LaMelo Ball has been taking those last-second possessions. With Kadon already having a championship and being in Charlotte for 5 years, he thinks he might be able to get a better opportunity elsewhere. Will Kadon take a potential offer from a team like Philly or Miami, or will LaMelo and Kadon be able to hash things out? Kadon Ryan ends up signing a deal with Miami for 4 years, $163 million. But with Kevin Durant having to be paid, the Heat end up bailing on Kadon and signing Durant to a 1-year, $45 million deal. The Heat let the Clippers sign Tyler Hero to a massive 4-year, $190 million deal, and now Kadon, the best player in the free agent class, is available to be signed. And after seemingly an end of an era fallout, Kadon re-signs back with Charlotte, and to make Kadon happy, the Hornets signed Jared Vanderbilt after losing Aaron Gordon after he got signed by Toronto. Another team trying to please their young superstar is the Knicks. They re-signed Brunson to a crazy huge contract and overpay Van Vliet and Thompson the short-term deals. But the Knicks quickly make a massive move. The Knicks trade their 25-year-old former 6th Man of the Year, Keontae George, and 31-year-old Jalen Brunson and a first-round pick for the 40-year-old Kevin Durant. Durant still has some juice left in the tank, and after the Miami experiment failed completely, this looks like Durant's last chance at his 3rd ring. While the Heat look to get younger and gun for the future. The Pelicans have some more bad injury news. Zion suffers one of the worst injuries in the league, leaving the rest of the team to fill his production. The Pelicans, after the injury to Zion, pick up Pascal Siakam by trading Brandon Ingram, and now New Orleans has to trust the younger guys like Izzy Ball to show up. In the All-Star game, we see some familiar faces like Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic, and first-time All-Star Will O'Neal has made the team after having his best season. For the NBA awards, Izzy Ball wins MVP after keeping New Orleans afloat after the Zion injury, and for having an absolutely great season, nearly averaging a 25-point triple-double. JJ Shuttlesworth wins 6th Man of the Year, a player we haven't talked about since the Suns have been struggling. Will O'Neal wins Defensive Player of the Year for being the best rim protector in the league, and for leading the league in blocks and rebounds a game. And after years of pretty disappointing play for Will O'Neal, O'Neal has finally come into his own this year. Paul Thompson wins Most Improved for finally being the #1 option in Los Angeles since Anthony Davis is getting up there in age, and no real surprises for the All-NBA first team. Will O'Neal makes his 2nd team over his Charlotte teammate Kadon Ryan, and Sean Taylor, after having a great season averaging 22 points a game and 7.5 boards, makes an All-NBA 3rd team appearance. On the defensive team, the only real surprise is that Wembanyama made the first team over Will O'Neal, even though O'Neal went on to win the Defensive Player of the Year. This year, there was a pretty heavy power shift in the NBA, with the Eastern Conference being the way superior conference. The Bucks, after trading for Jaden Ivey, OG Anunoby, and Jalen Duren, have gone back to their winning ways. The biggest storyline in the West was the emergence of Izzy as the #1 option after the Zion injury, where he was able to lead the team to the 6th seed spot, but with the 45-37 record, the Pelicans would have only been the 9th seed in the East, making many question Izzy's MVP over players like Jameer Ware or Giannis. There's some wild playoff matchups this year, including the 3-seeded Jazz versus the 6-seeded MVP-led Pelicans. You could tell right off the bat that the Jazz was taking it personal that Izzy won the MVP over someone like Jameer. The series was never close, and Zion did come back, but he was simply not looking the same after his major knee injury. The Jazz advancing to the second round in an easy 5-game series. In the San Antonio series, Ja Morant leads the way to an easy 4-game sweep over San Antonio, with nobody putting up a fight for the Spurs. After a good showing last year, the Magic were disappointing throughout the entire season and series. At one point, Orlando was the 1st seed in the East with a 20-9 record, but after losing 8 straight games to end their regular season, the Magic were never the same. Giannis scores 37 in Game 5 to end the series in 5 games. The Pistons and Hornets rematched last year's second-round series. After the Pistons showed a lot of promise last year, this year Detroit plays a first-round Kadon with full stamina, and it proved to be a difference maker. The Hornets were outplaying the Pistons throughout most of the series, and the Hornets end up winning the series in 6 games, but after the Hornets already had Game 6 wrapped up, Kadon went to the bench and it was reported he suffered a twisted left ankle. Only time will tell if it will hinder Kadon next series. During this entire sim, the Lakers have been a great team, with LeBron or without, usually making it pretty far in the playoffs. Going up against a team known for losing in the first round, with everyone expecting an LA dub, the Rockets shock everybody by winning in 6 games. Houston, draining non-stop threes throughout the entire series, leads the way to upset LA. And many expected the Cavaliers to dominate the Bulls in the first round, but Chicago is not a team to play around with. Same was playing like a madman, while the rest of the team played their role to a T. The Bulls squeak out a very close 7-game series over the 5-seeded Cavs. With the rematch of the battle for New York, the Knicks seem hungry to revenge their early playoff exit. But this Brooklyn team has been battle tested, forcing both teams to readjust. This was a fantastic series between 2 potential finals contenders in just the first round. And after New York wins Game 6 off a De'Aaron Fox game winner, the reigning champs at home, with the somewhat injured Kai James, lose to their rivals in an embarrassing blowout. The Kevin Durant experiment seeming to work, beating the 2nd seed in the East, but will New York be able to beat Charlotte in the second round? Speaking of 7 seed going to 7 games with a 2 seed, the Suns, after not making the playoffs for years, go the distance with Denver. While Nikola Jokic fouled out, the supporting cast of Denver stepped up. Cam Johnson getting a triple-double and Christian Kelly scoring 27 points had the game all tied up. With the chance to complete the upset, Miles Bridges drains the 3 to take a 129-126 lead. With just 2 seconds left, the Nuggets inbound to their best shooter, and Christian Kelly misses the 3, and the Suns complete the upset against the 2-seeded Denver Nuggets. After the under 500 Suns made a miraculous upset against Denver, the same outcome could not be duplicated against Utah. In fact, the Jazz center, Jameer Ware, made sure of it by having his best series in his career, leading Utah to sweep Phoenix to advance to the conference finals. The Rockets showed that they could make the second round led by Tremblay, Green, and Jabari Smith, which is a minor step in the right direction. Even former 2023 10th overall pick Dariq Whitehead showed some promise. But when Morant and Kyrie having amazing performances, the Grizzlies get right past Houston in 4 games. Once again, a series will end very quickly. The young Bulls team looked electric in the first round, but with the rock-solid defense of Milwaukee, the Bulls look lost against a potential finals contender. Jaden Ivey leading the way in Game 5 to win in a gentleman's sweep. After a rough start from Christian Green Jr. in Game 6, the superstar scorer started to go off in the fourth quarter. With Charlotte up 3-2 in the series, the Hornets had a chance to close out the series in New York. De'Aaron Fox was leading the way for the Knicks with 38 points, Fox having the game be very competitive, and the Hornets were not in the game due to Kadon, that was for sure. Kadon only shooting 11% from the field in the second half, while the league's leading rebounder Will O'Neal was truly leading the unit on the glass and on defense. With the game in the balance, Kevin Durant misses the game winner and the Hornets barely get a win, a big part of it being De'Aaron Fox fouling out in the final moment. The Jazz and Grizzlies had some twists and turns. John Morant ended up suffering a minor neck injury, causing him to shoot under 40% for the series, and with the perimeter defense from Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, and Mikal Bridges, the Grizzlies duo was locked up. Not even bringing up the fact that Utah is one of the best shot blockers in the paint. The Jazz were able to get it done in 5 games, and Utah is now back in the finals. In Game 6, the Bucks dominate the Hornets in Charlotte, winning 153-102. After the all-around awful game from the Hornets, and especially Kadon Ryan, the Charlotte Big Three bounces back and stuns the Bucks in Milwaukee. Kadon leading the way with 37 points in Game 7, while Giannis fouls out amidst the blowout at home. Now we have a rematch of the Jazz versus Hornets in the NBA Finals. Last time it went down to the final few plays in Game 7, with Utah coming up on top. In all the years we've done the sim, the NBA Finals have never been under 6 games. And with Utah winning every series this year in 5 games or less, something would have to give. In Game 5, with the Hornets down 3-1, Kadon had a shot at a potential dagger. But Kadon will miss it, and John Mir on the next possession has the mismatch, and he hits the tough shot over the smaller Kadon. And just like that, the Jazz have the 1-point lead in Game 5. The Hornets trying to find a good play to find an open look, and it's been known that LaMelo is usually the one to shoot the last second shots. With Charlotte's backs against the ropes, Kadon attacks, waits for the screen from O'Neal, and he shoots, and he's blocked by Derek White, and Will O'Neal misses, and he's not known to be a shooter, and just like that, Utah wins their second NBA championship. The Charlotte Hornets cannot get past Utah once again. The Utah Jazz win the NBA championship in just 5 games, and the Finals MVP will be the first-time winner, John Ware. Ware taking over the leadership role for Harden, commanding this Utah team to a playoff run where they only lost 3 games.
I wish the way I was living could stop serving rocks, knowing the cops is hot when I'm on the block. And I wish my brother would've made bail so I won't have to travel 6 hours to see him in jail. And I wish that my grandmother wasn't sick, or that we would just come up on some stacks and hit a lick. And I wish my homies wouldn't have to suffer when the streets get the upper hand on us and we lose a brother. And I wish I could go deep in the zone and lift the spirits of the world with the words within the song. And I wish I could teach a soul to fly, take the weight of pain out your hands and help you hold them high. And I wish my homie Butch was still alive, and on the day of his death we had never took that ride. And I wish that God could protect us from the wrong, so that all the soldiers that were sent overseas come home. And we will never break, though they devastate. We shall motivate, and we gotta pray, all we gotta pay. Instead of thinking about who gon' die today, the Lord is gon' help you feel better, so you ain't gotta cry today. Sit at the light so long, and then we gotta move straight forward, cause we fight so strong. So when right go wrong, just say a little prayer, get your money, man, life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away. And be hopeful, hopeful, and he'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, cause we hopeful.
I wish that you could show some love, instead of hating so much when you see some other people coming up. I wish I could teach the world to sing, write some music and have them tripping off the joy I bring. I wish that we can hold hands, listen instead of dissing, lessons from a grown man. And I wish the families that lack but got love get some stacks, brand new shot in a lack that's on dubs. And I wish we could keep achieving wonders, see the vision of the world through the eyes of Stevie Wonder. You feel me? And I hope all the kids eat, and don't nobody in my family see 6 feet. You dig? I hope the mothers stand strong. You can make it whether you with them or your man's gone. And I wish I could give every celly some commissary, and a popo bring the heat on a priest like they did R. Kelly. And I wish that DOC could scream again, and bullets could reverse and Pac and Biggie breathe again. Then one day they could speak again. I wish that we only saw good news every time we look at CNN. I wish we could never get the blues. Wish I could bring back the people that died at E2. I wish that we could walk a path, stay doing the right thing, hustle hard so the kids maintain up in the game. Let's go.
Hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it, let it take you away. And be hopeful, hopeful, and
wasn't so apocalyptic. I try to spread my message to the world the best way that I can give it. We can make it, always be optimistic. If you don't listen, gotta live my life the best way that I can live it. I pray for justice when we go to court. Wish it was all good so the country never even went to war. Why can't we kick it and just get them on? And in the famous words of Mr. King, why can't we all just get along? Hope we can find a better way than shopping peas, and I hope we find a better way than copping keys, and I wish everybody would just stop and freeze and ask, why are we fulfilling these downfalls and these prophecies? You can be wrong if it's you doubting. With the faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains, and only the Heavenly Father can ease the hurt. Just let it go and keep praying on your knees in church. Let's go.
Yes, I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful, hopeful, and He'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay. Go be hopeful. Yes, I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful, hopeful, and He'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, 'cause we hopeful.
And I wish my homies wouldn't have to suffer when the streets get the upper hand on us and we lose a brother. And I wish I could go deep in the zone and lift the spirits of the world with the words within the song. And I wish I could teach a soul to fly, take away the pain out your hands and help you hold them high. And I wish my homie Butch was still alive, and on the day of his death we had never took that ride. And I wish that God could protect us from the wrong, so that all the soldiers that were sent overseas come home. And we will never break, though they devastate. We shall motivate, and we gotta pray, all we gotta faith. Instead of thinking about who gon' die today, the Lord is gon' help you feel better, so you ain't gotta cry today. Sit at the light so long, and then we gotta move straight forward, 'cause we fight so strong. So when right go wrong, just say a little prayer, get your money, man, life goes on.
I'm hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful, hopeful, and He'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, 'cause we hopeful.
I wish that you could show some love instead of hating so much when you see some other people coming up. I wish I could teach the world to sing, write some music and have them tripping off the joy I bring. I wish that we can hold hands, listen instead of dissing, lessons from a grown man. And I wish the families that lack but got love get some stacks, brand new shot in a lack that's on dubs. And I wish we could keep achieving wonders, see the vision of the world through the eyes of Stevie Wonder. You feel me? And I hope all the kids eat, and don't nobody in my family see 6 feet. You dig? I hope the mother stand strong. You can make it whether you with them or your man's gone. And I wish I could give every celly some conversary, and a popo bring the heat on a priest like that did R. Kelly. And I wish that DOC could scream again, and bullets could reverse and Pac and Biggie breathe again. Then one day they could speak again. I wish that we only saw good news every time we look at CNN. I wish we could never get the blues. Wish I could bring back the people that died at E2. I wish that we could walk a path, stay doing the right thing, hustle hard so the kids maintain up in the game. Let's go.
Hopeful, yes I am hopeful for today. Take this music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful,